honor survivors, provide inspiration to those who are fighting pancreatic cancer, and remember those we've lost. This is a different event than Purple Stride, PanCAN's fundraising walk that takes place every April. PurpleLight is the time to come together, a time of remembrance and solidarity, and we are gathered today to honor and embrace those who are currently battling pancreatic cancer and remember those who were sadly taken from us too soon. As a leader in the fight against pancreatic cancer, PanCAN is working to accelerate progress for patients today and those diagnosed in the future. Progress is being made. The 5-year survival rate for this disease has increased to 12% in 2023. But this is certainly not good enough. PanCAN's 2030 goals include driving the 5-year survival from 10% to 20%. We will keep fighting and we will not waver in our resolve to rewrite the story of pancreatic cancer. PanCAN's mission is to take bold action to improve the lives of everyone impacted by pancreatic cancer by advancing scientific research, building community, sharing knowledge, and advocating for patients. We are proud to say that PanCAN has invested $208 million in research since 2003, which includes our grant programs and our transformational scientific and clinical initiatives like Precision Promise and the Early Detection Initiative. If you are unfamiliar with these programs, I encourage you to learn more about them at pancan.org. Each of you plays an important role in helping us accelerate progress for patients by volunteering, donating, and raising awareness in the community as we are doing here tonight. You are making a difference. We are all here for a reason. I would like to briefly share with you my reasons for being part of this event and joining PanCAN as a volunteer. I was first affected by pancreatic cancer in 2006 when my aunt, my mother's sister, was diagnosed. She fought for 18 months and died at the age of 57. Shortly thereafter, in 2009, my godmother on my dad's side was diagnosed, and she fought for almost 3 years when she lost her ballot at 66. Then my brother was diagnosed in 2020, and he died last year at the age of 46. My mother, my cousin, and I all carry the BRCA gene that gives us a greater chance of getting pancreatic cancer, so I'm really invested in this research and this cause, and so I wanted to turn it into something positive. So that's what we're trying to do here. Many of us are here to honor and remember loved ones and friends, a special someone. For each of us, it started with someone. We all have stories about our someone. We carry these stories with us wherever we go. They are part of us. Maybe it's a friend or a loved one or someone you didn't know well but impacted you greatly. Will you share a part of yourself with the community gathered here this evening? If you are comfortable, please introduce yourself to a new person and share a bit about why you are here, or share a favorite memory of your someone. So if you'd like to turn to each other and kind of talk about why you're here. While you're up here, you want to share your why? You want to share your why you're here? This is Greg Adams. I grabbed him on his way out, unfortunately. to talk to us for a minute, because I think it's really important for him to tell us why he's here, and he said he would agree to it.
Hi, I'm Greg Adams. I'm a stage 4 pancreatic cancer survivor.
Yeah, turn it up a little bit. Hold on.
Can't hear?
There you go.
There we go. Okay. I'm Greg Adams, stage 4 pancreatic cancer survivor. And thank you. I appreciate that. But when I filled out the registration form, I wanted to know who I was putting, who I was going to write in, as an honoree. And I realized that there were 11 in my family who've all had stage 4 pancreatic cancer. My mother, her 2 brothers, my younger sister, cousins on both sides, and 6 ancestors that went up the family tree that we were able to confirm as well. But none of us have any genetic markers for any form of any cancer. So we've been a puzzle. There are 3 research studies that have pieces of my cancer now, and all of our genetic workups to try to figure out what markers are there. They haven't identified them yet. But I just wanted to let you know I'm here for 11 members of my family that didn't make it. And the average life expectancy in our family tree has been 90 days from diagnosis. So I have celebrated my 5-year anniversary this year. So first in history. And I owe that to advances in the technology, the science and the surgical techniques and new kinds of radiation and new kinds of chemotherapy. They're starting to work. There are more of us now than there used to be. And one of the things that I'm working with Henry Ford, they asked me to see if I could help them put together a pancreatic cancer survivors support group. And we're calling it Life After Whipple. We have a website under development, and we've already had 5 guest speakers nationally who are presenting topics relevant to people who have had their spleen removed, their pancreas removed, gallbladder removed, the bottom of the stomach is gone, all of that. It makes life a little more difficult than it used to be. It's a challenge, but it's a life worth living, and that's the good news. So we're trying to get this information published out to the world to make it easier for the people who are coming up behind us. So that's my reason for being here.
Is there anyone else that would like to come up and share their why? Or we'll keep going? Come on up. We want to thank Greg for sharing his story and all about his family members.
Sorry, I walk a little slow. Hard. My name is Danny Dubin. I am a 1-year pancreatic cancer survivor. What I wanted to share with you is what saved my life. I literally, not figuratively, but literally, almost died at least 5 times. I had 2 oncologists, one from Henry Ford, one from Ascension. I'm with Dr. Phillips now from Henry Ford, and they both told me something, and I'll never forget it. It's hard to talk when you're choked up. They both said that your mental attitude is 50%. I don't believe that. I believe it's much higher than that. I don't worry. I don't fear. I think positive thoughts 100% of the time. It's true for all of us. When you think positively, things happen, good things happen. And I just wanted to share with you, I'm one who's willing to say it, that I almost died at least 5 times. But the positive thinking and the willingness to fight have saved me. And I hope to be here next year for the same event, same time. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing with all of us. When this community comes together, we form a commitment to remember those we have lost, honor those who are with us, and inspire, encourage, and hope that we can make a real difference in this fight. Tonight, this community has come together to create a world in which pancreatic cancer patients will thrive. Now we would like to take a moment to thank and recognize our wonderful donors and supporters who are an important part of this community. Their participation and support is very much appreciated and helps to fuel PanCAN's progress. Thank you to all the donors for joining our movement, and we would especially like to recognize Gilda's Club for hosting this event and donating the time to make this event possible. We also want to thank our volunteers who have worked tirelessly to make sure this event is inspiring. Volunteers can and do make a difference. And we are so lucky to have an incredible community here in Michigan dedicated to ending this disease and creating better outcomes for pancreatic cancer patients. To make an event an even greater impact, we need more help to fight this disease. PanCAN is a volunteer-driven organization, and we rely on our amazing volunteers to move the needle forward. If you are interested in volunteering and joining the community, please stop by and talk to one of us and get in touch. Lastly, before we hear from some amazing guest speakers, I want to remind everyone that if you know someone affected by pancreatic cancer, encourage them to contact PanCAN Patient Services for free resources and support. Visit pancan.org. Together, we will improve outcomes for pancreatic cancer patients. I would now like to introduce our first speaker, Matthew Rosenblum. He is a 2-year survivor of pancreatic cancer. He was diagnosed back in 2020 when COVID started. And he was 32 years old at the time when he was diagnosed, and he's here to tell us his story. He moved to Michigan just 3 short months ago and is currently finishing his PhD in geography. Please welcome Matthew.
Hey y'all. My name is Matt Rosenblum, and I am a pancreatic cancer survivor. I have been trying to organize my thoughts about what to say for the past week, and I have written them out a million times, and they always just feel so boxy and so untrue, so abstracted from the experience, so unmusical, and really not in line with how I have thought about my journey. And so I am just going to tell you a little bit about the story, and then and I will certainly forget things. I forget and remember parts of this narrative constantly. So next year or the next time we meet, you'll hear something new. But I was diagnosed, my journey begins in early 2021 in Durham, North Carolina. I had just moved there after losing my job during the pandemic, and I moved to Durham for a place to land. My best friend owned a bakery there and was having a surprise COVID baby, and he needed help and I needed a place to go, so I moved to Durham, and A few months later, the business was closed, they moved to Maine, and I was by myself in a city I did not know. 2 months later, I began experiencing symptoms of obstructive jaundice. And it took me about 3 days. First, things in the bathroom get real weird. And I know that's also incredibly peculiar to say, but it's true. And eventually my skin started to itch with such incredible severity that the only way I could sleep was to force my hands and feet under scalding hot water to numb the sensation so I could go to sleep. So about day 3 with obstructive jaundice, I went to an urgent care. I didn't know where else to go. And they did blood tests, and the blood tests were troubling, and so they sent me along to the emergency room. And I was there for 2 days, and they didn't really know what was wrong with me, and they put a stent in my bile duct. They thought that there was some swelling, and that if they put a stent up there, that the swelling, they would stretch it out, and the swelling would go away, and I would be fine. And we went back and forth like this for several months. There were stents put in and taken out, and the symptoms would always come back. And then they took out my gallbladder, and then a few weeks later, I was at my GI's office in Durham, North Carolina, and I had just had a stent taken out, and she said, well, the good news is that you definitely do not have cancer. And then 2 hours later, a MyChart notification was sent to my phone telling me that that my most recent brushings had come back positive for adenocarcinoma, which was a word I did not know, but I knew enough to know it was not a good word. You know, cancer words I joke that they sound like the bad guy from Star Wars. And so I Googled this word and figured out what that meant, and it was shocking. 2 hours later, the surgeon who took out my gallbladder, who just happened to be a surgical oncologist, calls me on the phone and tells me that he is very surprised by the results, but that it's going to be okay, that I'm going to have what's called a Whipple, and I had to Google that as well. He said that they assumed that I had a related cancer in that area, but because of my age, at this point, I was still only 32 years old. It was so unlikely for me to have pancreatic cancer that looking back on it, there were a dizzying number of explanations for my symptoms that were so far-fetched that they sound ridiculous to say out loud now. A week later, I went into the hospital for my Whipple with very high hopes. And a few hours later, I woke up in the hospital, and my sister was there, and my doctor was there, and I had been awake for a little while, and the way I was positioned, I couldn't see, I didn't have my phone, and I couldn't see a clock. But eventually I saw on a nurse's watch what time it was, and I put together that it was just not possible for me to have had a successful Whipple. They cut me open and found a tumor on the head of my pancreas that had spread to my abdominal wall and my liver. I spent the next week in the hospital recovering from surgery, and I ate chicken fingers every meal for 7 days and just watched Harry Potter movies in the hospital, still very much in shock. But my surgical oncologist, he said something to me. He said that because of my age and what we eventually discovered to be a BRCA2 mutation, that, and my youth and vigor, I think is how he phrased it. Doctors have a really peculiar way of talking sometimes. That he thought that in a year I would be able to have a Whipple, they would be able to try surgery again. My oncologist, who he referred me to, was not as confident. And I remember the first visit we had in the hospital room where he told me, and I had to badger it out of him, but he told me that I had 1 to 3 good years left, maybe, if I decided to do chemotherapy. So I did chemo. I did 6 months of FOLFIRINOX, and my first set of scans were okay. The tumor shrank a little bit. My next scans were not good. My tumor had grown. There were more spots on my liver. I was prepared for the worst. That was also the day that the effects of FOLFIRINOX were so horrible that I could barely get out of chemo on my own steam, and was tremendously grateful that I didn't have to do that kind of chemo anymore. Thankfully, I was at a great hospital, had a great doctor, and despite not being terribly confident, we tried a different combination of chemo drugs, and by my next scan, there were no more spots on my liver, and the tune changed, and he said that if my next scan, my next MRI and CT in 3 months were showing positive movement, that we would try surgery again. And so in March of 2022, I had my last chemo session before surgery, took a month off, ate everything in sight, literally everything, and in May of 2022, had a successful pancreatoduodenectomy that saved my life, and that I never expected to have. And I am tremendously grateful for it. You always, when you are in that situation, it is very difficult to be hopeful. And I will admit that I do not always have a great attitude about these things. But with an incredible support network, I have lived a much richer and fuller life than I expected possible, and I have been without evidence of recurrent metastatic disease in my body for 18 months. Being a survivor of a disease that is so often analogized with a death sentence can be an incredibly difficult, the burden is real and it is heavy. Some days I feel like I have done nothing of substance. And the other days, I feel 100 feet tall and absolutely indestructible. After surgery, I did 3 more months of chemo and shot my shot with a girl I knew from college who is sitting in the front row, my partner Natalie, and it worked. And we have been together ever since. And it is, while I don't always have the best attitude, I do believe that complaint is the spice of life. There is a way to look at my story and think that, and say that I went through one of the worst things you can do to a human being. It is horrible, but now things are pretty nice, and there's life after it. So I hope that that story can bring some comfort to loved ones of survivors and patients and people who are not here. Thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing your story with us, Matthew. And now our second speaker is Kendall Gartrell. She has a connection with pancreatic cancer through professional and personal experiences. Kendall's worked with Henry Ford Health as a clinical research assistant for pancreatic cancer team, and she has been the team captain for Purple Stride for her team the past 2 years. Currently, she is attending the medical school and hopes to become a medical and research professional to help future pancreatic cancer patients. Kendall has also had a personal experience with pancreatic cancer because her grandmother Joanna passed away from stage 4 back in March of 2021. Please welcome Kendall Gartrell.
Hi everyone, my name is Kendall, as she said. I, was really shocked and very grateful to have this opportunity to come and talk to everyone here today. I am far from a medical professional, but that is the goal for me. And my journey with pancreatic cancer started a little bit over 6 years ago. I was 19 years old. I wanted to know more about research. I always knew I wanted to go into the medical field, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. Other than that, I wanted to be a physician. I wanted to take care of patients. So I went to Henry Ford. I applied for a job that I really didn't think I was going to get, and I did. And from that day forward, I was immersed in this world of research, and specifically with pancreatic cancer. And it's changed my life in so many different ways. So when I started, I began a pancreatic cancer database at Henry Ford with the help of many incredible professionals, Dr. David Kwan, Dr. Howard Crawford. All of them are fantastic, and I owe all of the knowledge and education that I have on this disease from them, and from Henry Ford. They have taught me so much, and so throughout those 6 years, I helped with the building of the Henry Ford Pancreatic Cancer Center, which started a few years ago, and I was a clinical research assistant there for a few years. And I did this throughout my undergraduate career and through my gap years. And it was such a fantastic experience because I got to really connect with patients. And I also got to do stuff on the back end for research to find, better treatments to be able to help with genetics. I wasn't, the main person doing it, but I at least got to help, lend a helping hand, which was all I wanted to do. I want to be able to help in whatever way that I can, even if it's small. And so with that being said, as I was working for Henry Ford, unfortunately in 2021, my godmother, Joanna, was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer in January of 2021, and she passed away in March of the same year. So her battle was short, but she was so strong throughout the entire experience. And although it was so hard to watch her go through, and to be there and see that and know that I knew too much because I had all of that background, it made me even more passionate to keep going and to keep on with the research that I want to do. And so now I'm not working at Henry Ford anymore, but I'm a medical student at Wayne State. I'm in my first year. I'm pursuing an MD PhD, so I'm trying to become a physician scientist to be able to not only treat pancreatic cancer patients, but to be able to find better, treatment methods, to be able to find early diagnosis through research methods as well, to be a scientist as well, because I want to be able to, move the needle, want to be able to help with the 5-year survival rate and increase it, and I want to be able to provide a better future for pancreatic cancer patients and their families. And I've had such a fortunate experience of working with many people here in this audience, in this community, over the past 2 years as the team captain at Henry Ford for Purple Stride. And I'm so grateful that I have such an incredible group of people that I'm able to work with, and be able to learn from. So thank you all for everything that you do, for sharing your story, for helping with all of these things that PanCAN does. I am just so grateful to be here today with you guys, and I guess all I can say is thank you.
Okay, thank you, Kendall. We are so grateful to have a few pancreatic cancer survivors with us tonight. We recognize survivors as anyone who has fought or who is currently fighting pancreatic cancer. Survivors are a symbol of hope for all of us in the pancreatic cancer community. Whether you were diagnosed just yesterday or have been cancer-free for over 20 years, we are grateful for you. You are a true testament to the strength of this community. To all the survivors here tonight, we honor you. You motivate us in the fight against pancreatic cancer, and we support you and commend you for your strength and your spirit. We are all furthering the promise of tomorrow with you leading our way. Please join us in acknowledging the strength and determination of all of our survivors. We are also here to remember those who have bravely fought this disease and are not with us tonight. Let's take this time to honor those who we have lost their battles with pancreatic cancer with a moment of silence.
Now we'll begin our PurpleLight name reading ceremony to recognize all the loved ones we are honoring and remembering this evening. When you hear your loved one's name, please crack and shake your glow stick to activate the PurpleLight. We ask that you hold any applause or any comments so that all of the names can be heard. I apologize in advance if I mispronounce anyone's name. These individuals, along with many others, are the reasons why we fight for better outcomes for pancreatic cancer patients. In honor of Frank Singer. In honor of Joe Sito. In honor of Mary Mahalich. In honor of Robert Miller. In honor of Matthew Rosenblum. In honor of Daniel Dubin. In honor of Greg Adams and 11 of his family members. In honor of Martin Mairi. In honor of John Sykes. in honor of Brenda Bird. In memory of Ken Wood. In memory of Denny Buat. In honor of in memory of Bill Rothwell. In memory of Debbie Spry. In honor of Connie Predwojewski. In honor of Ranjana Upadhyaya. In honor of Shailesh Upadhyaya. In memory of Ed Kolacki. In memory of Elaine Palmaville. In memory of Sharon Krushinska. In memory of Jackie Coates. In memory of Michael Godfrey. In memory of Shirley J. Smith. In memory of Scott Hershey. In memory of Mitchell Marcelewski. In memory of Carol Gorenflow. In memory of Jean Masick. In memory of Doris Silk. In memory of Gary Bush. In memory of Beulah Holloway. In memory of Glenn Hardy. In memory of Dave Smith. In memory of Mark Carell. In memory of Mary Purefoy. In memory of Pat Murray. In memory of Charlie Timoneri. In memory of Byron Brooks. In memory of Jeff Lasky. In memory of Bill Wester. In memory of Stacy Wester. In memory of Joanna Clore. In memory of William McCracken. In memory of Ben Jocelyn. In memory of Frederick Beard. In memory of Katrina Massaquoi. If you take a moment to look around at the sea of purple lights that surround you tonight, look around and see everyone here who shares a similar experience with you. We have all come together tonight for a greater good. The color purple represents the passion, commitment, and unrelenting spirit in the fight against pancreatic cancer. It represents the strength of our community, and most importantly, it represents our hope. I encourage everyone to carry this hope with you after today's event. I hope that the passion for that cause will continue to burn bright when you leave here tonight. And I encourage you, each of you, to wage hope, demand better, and join us as we strive for a world in which all patients with this disease will prevail right here in Michigan. You can also walk in honor of those affected by pancreatic cancer at our local Purple Stride, Michigan, on April 27th, 2024. The Walk to End Pancreatic Cancer. Visit purplestride.org for more information. Thank you again for being here tonight. By joining forces, we share our determination, our cherished memories, and our strength with one another as we build a community that strengthens each of us. Together, we will improve outcomes for today's patients and those diagnosed in the future. Thanks again for being here tonight. That's the end of our event, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you.